Hello, on behalf of Rotary District 3131 and Rotary Club of Pune Metro, I, Rotarian Amit Apte, heartily welcome you all to today's webinar. We have officials, members and students of InSearch Society for Advanced Studies, Maharashtra Education Societies, Rani Lakshmibai Mulinchi Sainiki Shala and Junior College attending this program. I extend a warm welcome to all of them as well. Rotary Club of Pune Metro, in association with Prevention of Addiction Committee of Rotary District 3131, is organizing a Say No, Bolo Na web series on prevention of addiction. The problem of addiction has affected people of all genders, irrespective of their age, and is prevalent across the globe. The focus of the program is on prevention of addiction of nicotine, alcohol, drugs, internet abuse, etc. The program consists of a series of online presentations and virtual interactions with eminent persons from different domains. We have so far already conducted programs covering topics like addiction of tobacco, alcohol, internet, addictions among women, etc. Today, we have one more eminent personality to have a dialogue with all of us on the topic positive addiction. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kaustubh Radkar. Dr. Radkar is a MS and MBA and also holds a PhD from USA. He has worked with John Hopkins Hospital as rehabilitation expert from the year 2008 to 2013. He is a founder and CEO RAD-RX Rehabilitation for diseases of cancer and heart. Dr. Radkar is also a community health expert with affiliations to several city hospitals, local sports clubs. Dr. Radkar is a motivational speaker to various schools, colleges, TEDx and corporates. In fact, Mr. Radkar is himself an addict. Yes, he is addicted to sports and fitness. He has an unique distinction of being the only Indian to finish 25 full Ironman triathlons. Now, what is an Ironman triathlon? I think it is best to understand the concept from the Ironman himself. Dr. Radkar is the only Indian to complete the Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii and the South African Championship. He is the first Asian to finish an Ironman in all the 6 continents. He is also the first Ironman certified coach of India. Radkar sir will today be interviewed by Mr. Srinivas Patwardhan. Mr. Patwardhan is a BE in Electrical Engineering from University of Pune, MS in Electrical and Computer Engineering from University of California, Santa Barbara. Currently, he is working on PhD in Bioengineering from George Mason University, researching artificial limbs and prosthetics. Mr. Patwardhan is one of the students of Mr. Radkar himself and has been training him since 2019 for the Ironman competitions. He has completed the first solo Ironman of 2020 after races got cancelled due to COVID. I must over here place on the record our sincere gratitude to Rotarian Sonal Patwardhan, a member of Rotary Club Pune South. Rotarian Sonal is mother of Mr. Srinivas Patwardhan and has helped us connect with Dr. Radkar and organize this program. So I now request Srinivas to commence today's discussion. Over to you.
Hi, I'm Srinivas Patwardhan and we have with us here today Dr. Kaustubh Radkar, Ironman athlete, Ironman coach and lots more. So a little bit about him. He did his first Ironman triathlon in 2008. In his prior life, before that, he was a professional swimmer. He's held several records at the national level and so on. He's competed, represented India at the international levels. And since 2008, He has done 25 Ironman races, his 25th being last year in 2020 in New Zealand. So welcome, Kaustubh.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
And full disclosure, I also am his trainee, so there may be a little bit of bias there. So Kaustubh, how would you say Ironman has changed your life and the life of your athletes, your trainees, and so on?
See, I think first of all, any sport has the power to change anyone's life. Now, when you look at Ironman or any endurance sport, it's not just about that one day, right? I always tell people, and you know this, that that race day is just one day, but the training prior to it for 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is, that's life changing. And it's life changing because number one, it teaches you that if you don't do the work, you are more than likely not going to succeed on race day. So for me personally, Ironman is very, very, comparable to my life. It's given me a lot of discipline. Obviously, I was very dedicated as an athlete, but then you come to a stage in life where your career starts taking precedence, your professional life, your personal life starts taking precedence, and Ironman gave me that opportunity to stay connected to sport, which has been my passion since I was 8 years old. So for me, it has been a great addiction. And part of the reason why I got into coaching was because I realized that this sport has the potential to change lives. And in change lives, I mean that we live in a very stressful world now, and I look at it as means to have the why. We talk about the why. It gives people the why because Ironman is such a big brand. It is considered to be the toughest one-day race in the world. So people naturally have the why when they register for this race. But then the how is very, very important, and the how is where I come in. And once trainees start training for this great race, they realize the changes they go through. And I just touched upon very small changes, and you have been through the journey last year, and you know how much willpower you have gained, how many mental barriers you have broken. So there's only positives you can take from this race.
I see. So first let me actually describe what an Ironman race even is, and we started talking about that. So a typical Ironman race is, first you have to do swimming for 3.8 kilometers. So to give some context, in a 25-meter pool, that would be 152 laps of the pool. Then you get out of the water, and this swim is typically open water swim, right? So it will be a lake, river, ocean, sea, something like that.
Yeah.
Any open water swim. So that's natural water. You finish the swim of 3.8 kilometers, and then you get on your bike, and then you bike for 180 kilometers. So that would be the equivalent of going from Mumbai to Pune, and a little bit more. And after you finish the bike, you keep your bike away, you rack it up, and then you put your running shoes on and you run a full marathon, 42.2 kilometers. So if you think of the whole distance, that would be, you start in in Mumbai, you start at Gateway of India, you go in the water for 2 kilometers, you come back, then you start cycling, you come to Pune, you cycle a little bit more around town, then you stop cycling, and then you put on your shoes and you go to Mulshi running.
Yeah, or you go towards Lonavala. And the important thing is you don't have, 24 hours or 48 hours. It's the maximum time limit is 17 hours for the race.
Right. So naturally, when you have to train for a race like this, clearly you have to train a lot. Right? So you can't simply go for a 20-minute run every day and call that training. So clearly you have trained for thousands and thousands of kilometers every day, and you mentioned that it is like a good addiction. So is it that you wake up every day in the morning and you're actually excited about training even today? Is it a good addiction in that sense?
Actually, for me, the process starts the night before. Okay. It's not, everyone is human, even I am human. After 28 years of being in the athletic field, I still have days where it's a mental battle, right? So I still have days where the alarm clock goes off and I don't want to necessarily get up, but that's the difference. I have a great group to train with. Even when I was living in the US, the process starts the night before. And what do I mean by the process, right? So to get up in the morning, I know what my workout is going to be next day. I'm already looking forward to that workout. I already know how I'm going to go through the workout. Mentally, I'm ready to take on the challenge. Mentally, I have pulled out my clothes, my shoes for the next day. So there's that excitement factor. Obviously, if you want to start a workout at 5:30 in the morning, whether it's swim or bike or you go to the gym, you need that peaceful 7-8 hours of sleep. And so in that sense, this addiction, a good addiction, has given me the opportunity to really invest a lot in my own health. And my family and friends all know this, is that I'm not reachable after 7:30 in the evening. And a lot of my trainees know this, that for you I'm inaccessible after 6 because I have my dinner at 6. I have my dinner at between 6 and 7. I'm off screens by 7:38 in the evening. The most I will do before I go to bed is relax to some peaceful music. So these good addictions also teach you a lot about yourself, and last year was a great example that people finally realized, a lot of us finally realized, that investing in your health is going to pay dividends going forward.
Right. So naturally, after I described the event and then you described how much you train for it, I know a lot of people will have the question, can I do this? And usually the answer that people will give is, no, I can't do this because there's no way I can run for 17 hours or do something crazy like that. But do you know people who have actually started from scratch, who are not that fit, who maybe used to exercise a little bit but have become even Ironman or Ultraman? Or is it a sport and an activity that only super fit athletes like yourself could do?
So I give people this example that when you went to the 10th standard, right? When you went for the first time, when you studied at first standard, someone would have told you, I'm giving you the 10th standard exam. Would you take it? No. It's the same with Ironman, right? So it's a big goal to achieve, but there's smaller goals, smaller milestones, which even I had to achieve. It's not that I woke up one day and said, okay, from tomorrow I'm going to do an Ironman in 3 months. No, it started with the swim. So everyone gets to a certain level in the swim because that's the most hardest part for athletes all over the world. Because most of us train in the pool, and training in the open water has its own challenges. Similar with the bike, especially for people in India, and it was true for me that when I started training for Ironman in 2008, I had not ridden a bike for at least 10 years. And what bike I was using was a BSA SLR, which was the only thing available at that time and only thing you could afford. So biking was a new element. I had never run a marathon before. I had run a 5K, and then that 5 became a 10 and 10 became 15. So you have to gradually build it. If you see, I have coached 99 athletes to an Ironman journey, Ironman finish line, of which at least 90 or 92 have been freshers, I would say, who were comfortable with either the swim or the bike, or were running maybe 10Ks, or had run a 21. Similar to you, they joined me with the ultimate goal of doing an Ironman, but then it was on me to slowly, gradually take them to that step. There's obviously smaller triathlons that we encourage people to do. There's the sprint triathlon, which is a 750 swim, a 20 kilometer cycle and a 5 kilometer run. And then if you like it, you enjoy it, you go on to the next stage, which is the Olympic triathlon. And the next stage would be to do a half Ironman. You do a couple of the half Ironmans, and then you realize, okay, if this is for me or for not me. And there's nothing wrong in it. I always tell people, you have to choose your own Ironman. Just because I've done 25 Ironmans doesn't mean I expect every trainee to do 25 Ironmans. If your Ironman is a 5K run, go for it. What's stopping you? It's an individual sport. You have to choose what challenge you will give yourself.
I see. So you did mention that a lot of your, at least 99 so far, have done an Ironman. I know you also have people who train only running. You may have trained with swimmers in the past and so on. But these still are people who are training for some event. They are looking at some marathon, some Ironman, some ultra swim or whatever that is. But how do you think that the dedication that all your athletes and you show in your training can also be emulated by our society at large? Because society at large today is becoming more sedentary. We sit more and we stand less. We eat more and we run less.
Yeah.
So how do you think that, say, a common person who does not necessarily want to do a race but want to still have a good cardiovascular system, not have diabetes, not have cholesterol and so on, and have a positive impact on their life in terms of losing addictions, how can sport every day in the morning or something like that help them?
So there's multiple ways I can answer this. I'll try and give you two examples, right? Number one, I think, not to be political, but the Fit India movement was started that people get into some of these, whatever it is, might be just runs or cycles or yoga, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, a healthy nation has its own benefits, right? On the other side, if you see what has happened in India in the last 5 to 8 years, is there's been a tremendous explosion, not just in the number of athletes, but in the number of races. So running events pre-COVID, I think we have to go pre-COVID and post-COVID now. Pre-COVID, if you saw, the running season in India was 12 months. There's no break. And even in the monsoon, you can definitely run. So there were days in Pune, especially on the weekends, where we used to have multiple events happening in the city. So 3 different locations, each has its own race or event happening. So thanks to social media craze, people now have the opportunity, whether it is for their Instagram or Facebook post that they want to show the medal they have earned, that people had started taking this seriously. People had started realizing that, okay, this is one means that I can now brag to my family and my friends, and it's all about the likes, right? So in a way, the running, cycling, triathlon scene has changed, and I really hope that this coming year onwards we go back to those pre-COVID times. When I started coaching in 2004, so officially I moved to India in 2013, I started coaching. I had one Ironman athlete. Last year I would have had at least 45 newcomers. That means they were going to attempt an Ironman for the first time. Plus there were 15, 18 who had done an Ironman in the past. When I look about running, when I started coaching, I probably had 5 or 8 runners who trained with me. Now, on any given Tuesday or a Thursday, there's 50 athletes who come for group workouts, and I'm not even talking about the virtual platform. Not
that's
just
that.
Pune,
that's just Kothurud.
That's just Pune, that's just, yeah, exactly. That's just people who are accessible to Kothurud.
Yeah.
And it's not just me, right? There's, 10, 15 other coaches who are doing the same thing just within this 5-kilometer radius of Pune.
Right.
So these sporting addictions, these good addictions are being taken up by society.
Right. Again, on the topic of addictions and good addictions or overcoming bad addictions, nowadays we see on social media there's usually some posts about some actor, somebody who has overcome something and now they are extremely fit, or somebody used to be extremely unfit, now they started running marathons and so on. Do you in your experience also have seen people who maybe had sort of like bad addictions and then they turned and removed all of those, and now suddenly they replace those with good addictions like fitness, like mental fitness and so on?
So I have several athletes who were this overweight athletes, and now they have become significantly fit. I think last year, just before you, there was this one guy who was 110 kilos, and over the past 3-4 years he shed at least 35-40 kilos, and he did his Ironman solo. And what's more incredible is that he trained throughout the lockdown, right? So there was so much negativity around, there was so much, everyone was complaining, the media was complaining, the newspapers were complaining, and just even the family members were complaining, right? So he found a way to turn this negativity into something positive for him, that he said, regardless if the race happens, travel happens or not, I am committed to this goal of myself. And it relayed on the entire Rat Strong team, and that was the great part, that just like you, his journey, we all bought in that if this one person can do it, what's stopping us from doing our daily workout, whatever that is. Having been in the coaching journey for the last 10 years, obviously you meet people who were smokers, who were alcoholics, who were heavily involved in their work, and in that sense it has been great to have them invest in their life in a good way, to change any addiction they may have. Even just working too much time, if you're working 18, 19 hours, it is going to take a toll, not just on you, on your family life as well. So I don't want to take full credit that I've transformed their life, but at least I have given them a taste of what they can achieve in terms of their health and their overall happiness and the quality of life, not just for them, but importantly for their family members as well.
You mentioned that some of your athletes also have overcome addictions to do Ironman races and marathons. Another big addictive field that we are seeing today in society is social media. So you also mentioned that a lot of people will put up their, even before they actually finish the race, they are even thinking about what post I will put up and how I'll show my medal, and then everybody will like it, which is good. But then that tells me that this is one way in which people are using an addictive thing for good, right? Because everybody knows that social media is addictive, but at the end of the day, if somebody is using that as a motivation to get up and exercise in the morning, do you think it's a good way of replacing bad addictions?
I beg to differ on that.
Okay.
I personally don't think that social media is necessarily a good way to get away, because the issue is that people exercise once in the morning for whatever it is, 45 minutes to an hour, unless you're training for a significantly bigger event, right, like an Ironman. So you're doing 2 workouts in a day. Let's say 80% of the population is only exercising once. Now for that 45 minutes to 1 hour of workout, if you're spending the next 6 hours checking who did what my friends did, what my family did, someone who I don't even know, and they've got into this rat race of why does this person have X followers and I only have Y followers, that's not necessarily a good thing. So how you use social media is very, very important. We live in a world where there's a lot of peer pressure that happens, right? And social media, unfortunately, with all the trolling, just the unnecessary competition amongst people who you don't even know and probably will never meet in your life, has created a huge, I would say, like a mental health issue. And the only way to get out of it is to reduce your time on social media. Not just on social media, but also on these platforms that a lot of young adults spend time on. And I don't want to necessarily put the blame on one, but whatever it is, Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar, whatever it is, because all the shows that they see also are very, very addictive. And what happens is, a lot of times, even my trainees earlier used to say that I started watching a show and then 6 hours later I was still watching and it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's not right either. What our generation especially needs to understand is that nothing can beat rest and recovery, and the only way to invest in your health and your fitness is to get ample amounts of sleep. And that addiction is going to be a game changer going forward.
So what you said is actually interesting, because then there is a way of thinking about this as an addiction, right? So you mentioned that Netflix, Hotstar and Amazon, these things can become addictions. It's interesting to note that the same people who are hired today by Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix as they call them attention managers. So these people are supposed to keep you busy. They're in charge of making sure that you're not only watching a show, but you're addicted to the show.
Yeah.
You're not only interested in going on Facebook, but you're addicted to going on Facebook. So these same people are the ones who were hired by tobacco industries back in the 70s, to make sure that you don't just like a cigarette, but you're addicted to a cigarette.
Yeah.
Right? So it is definitely used for bad by the company. So we really have to look through it.
Well, you have to understand it's subscription based, right? Most of these apps are subscription based. Even if you think that Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp are free, they're taking all your data, and data is king. So they are getting you addictive. I mean, it's funny that my phone is away from me right now, but I'm sure by the time we are done with this interview, there'll be at least 2 or 3 companies which we have talked about, and by the time I check my phone, I'm going to start seeing ads on Google, on Facebook, on Instagram of them. So somebody is listening and somebody is making sure that there's stuff that you have brought about, and now have touched on that addiction, that I know this person needs that, so I'm just going to keep on displaying those ads. And this is a constant battle that people have, and that's why I'm a very prime believer that your screen time should end at least an hour and a half before you go to bed, because most people seem to think that I want to relax, and they hold the phone in their hand and they're either on YouTube or Facebook or something, and the next thing one ad pops up, and the next thing you know, you're now shopping for something that you don't need, and then you have 400 other options of the same product, and it's 2 hours and you've lost your priceless sleep. So shopping is also becoming a very, very deep addiction that we have to be careful of.
So, Kaustubh, you mentioned that you have a lot of trainees in Pune. I know several of them, and having interacted with them, I realized that they are otherwise successful people in life as well, right? So, there are people who have served, on the boards of various IT companies, and people who have done well in life. There is people who are orthopedic doctors, businessmen, chefs, and whatever you can name it. And these are all people who have done well in life, monetarily, physically, emotionally, socially. But once they have reached that point, even though it's maybe easier for them, they have the means to indulge in many more addictions, still they are choosing every day in the morning at 5 a.m. to wake up and come for a run. Do you think that running has made them mentally stronger, or exercise has made them mentally stronger to do these things? Or did they really have to one day sit and say, no, I'm not going to do these things which maybe my peers are doing? It may be unpopular today to say, oh, I'm not going to come for a party, I'm going to, I have to go for a run tomorrow morning, but one day I'll get my due.
So it's a mixture of both. Obviously there's some athletes who probably were smokers, who were into tobacco, who were alcoholics, and they were just touching the surface of running. Maybe they were running 5, 10, 21. And then they realized that as they got a little more serious either about their distance or their time, or they started to taste the the addictive benefits of running, right? They realized that something had to let go, that if I continue on this path, my running will suffer. Then at the other end, there were athletes who, like you mentioned, sit on boards, have their individual businesses which are doing really good, bought into the journey, that they started realizing this discipline, this motivation, this challenge is actually helping them in their family life and in their business life. That if my day used to start at 10 o'clock in the morning, now my day starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? So I'm in the office, I'm much more productive. And there's side benefits as well, that you start realizing that, okay, sugar is a big addiction for a lot of people. They start cutting out sugar. Eating out, eating spicy, unhealthy food. Prime example, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, most offices, regardless if you're a 10-person office or a 4,000, 10,000, 40,000 office, what is our most common addiction with tea? It's either something fried, right? They started realizing that this running journey that they're on, they started taking better steps for their overall health. What I like about our team is that these athletes are now silent influencers. And they have started to show the others that even if at age 45 or age 50, or we have 60-plus-year-olds and they are handling 200 crore worth companies, that if they can wake up in the morning and show up to workouts, they can let go of the parties or whatever that is. Then the younger generation obviously starts looking up to them. Younger generation will ask them good questions, and the younger generation wants to keep up with them. So nobody wants 55-year-old male or female running ahead of them, or cycling ahead of them, or swimming ahead of them. So inherently people are also looking for a better challenge for themselves, again with the ultimate goal of improving yourself.
And you mentioned that you start developing these habits to become better in your sport. So I can tell from my experience that I was always a night owl, right? So I used to start studying at 10 p.m. and if I had an exam the next day, I would study throughout the night till 6 a.m. and then go and give the exam. And basically I used to start watching TV at midnight, right? So I did that in my prior life. But after I started training with you, I realized that if I had to beat the sun and not suffer in 40 degrees temperature, then I had to start my run at 6 a.m. If I woke up at 10 and started to run at 11, then I'm going to be fried by the time I come home. So to avoid that, I started sleeping at 10. Now since I had woken up at 4 a.m., I was already sleepy at 9.
Yeah.
So there was no question of me even going out at 10. I didn't even answer those texts. So I think that is also a way of you slowly starting to replace these bad habits with certain better ones, and then it becomes a cascading snowball effect.
Yeah, it's all cyclic, right? Once you set your goal that I have to get up at 5 in the morning, naturally, you may be able to last maybe the first week that you go out, 2 or 3 times. Then your body will start giving you signals that, I cannot keep this up. If you want to run, you better start sleeping. You start giving me the rest I deserve. So it's a very cyclic effect that happens to everyone who involves in this positive journey.
So we talked about how sport also, or fitness in general, can become a good addiction, but even that has its limits, right? So I know you have several athletes, I may have been guilty of that in the past, that some people tend to push harder than required maybe, and then that follows with injuries, and then injuries lead to downtime, then downtime leads to again not being able to train, and so on. So clearly there's also room for sleep, rest, recovery, good nutrition. So from a point of view of sport, how much do you think one should actually concentrate on performance and abilities and skills, and then there's also the other aspect of life of living a full, wholesome, circular, nice, squared life?
See, if you were to ask me this question, they're very correlated. Regardless of you are an amateur or just someone into general fitness or a professional athlete, there are simple habits that are going to change and improve your quality of life. So eating healthy food, reducing the amount of sugar or staying away from sugar, reducing amount of stress that you have on a daily basis. And it's funny that these days when I consult 10 and 11-year-olds, even they have stress, which I don't even think I understood what stress was till 17, 18. Now, once you invest in this fitness journey, it's even more important to have that ample amount of sleep. You touched upon a point that you were a night owl in college, and I would say you are not the exception to the rule, because even when I was in college, I had a lot of friends who used to study all night. You have to understand that our brains, our bodies are not meant to go 20-22 hours in a day. Whether you're a college student or an amateur athlete or a professional athlete, everyone still needs those 6 to 8 hours of sleep. When you are younger, you could probably get away with it, for 2 days, 3 days. Some people may be able to extend it for a week. But then your body will start showing signs that it needs that rest. If you keep on pushing, I tell people that it's like an elastic band. You keep on pushing and you strengthen it. At some point, it's going to let go and snap. Unfortunately, we see a lot of cases where people push themselves to the limit, did not listen to the advice either from their family or friends or counselors or medical professionals. That unfortunately gave them health issues, and in certain cases, unfortunately, death. There's 2 prime examples I want to give. Growing up, I think everyone knew Andre Agassi, right? Everyone knew him as an amazing tennis player, but when his autobiography came out, people realized what mental stress, the peer pressure, having one parent continuously involved in their life meant. And these are the days when there was not even social media. Had it been on social media, he would have probably been associated with Nick Kyrgios by now. The other prime example is Virat Kohli, who if you study his history till that 2011 World Cup, he was this flamboyant, flashy, arrogant, brat type of talented athlete. But then at some point, people took him under his wings. At some point, he realized that if he kept on going this path, he would be a good cricketer. He probably would have scored 10, 15, 20 hundreds, and then he would have been a forgotten one. Once he started realizing the importance of sleep, the importance of nutrition, the importance of rest and recovery, you can tell where he is. And I think what I have loved the most about it was that he had to tell his mother that chole bhature cannot be a part of my breakfast every single day. So once you set your goals, you can let go of any addiction. And these are all things we create in our head, that I will not be able to do it. Plus there's peer pressure that people will always tell you, why do you want to do it? So if you want to achieve anything in life, you will figure out a way. If you want it bad enough, you will figure out a way to achieve that, and achieve that in the right way.
So maybe do you want to give us one example of an athlete who, maybe an Ironman athlete who did not have this in his life before? He had maybe other addictions, bad addictions, and then decided one day I'm going to change all of this, and he overcame that.
Yeah, there's an athlete called Lionel Sanders, and he is now the poster boy of what you can achieve when you set your mind to it, when you can invest in yourself, invest in positivity. So Lionel was your typical what can I say, athlete who had dreams to be pro, but was caught up in different things. So tobacco abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, you name it, and he was involved in that. But at some point, I think he realized that if he wanted to be at the level he thought he could achieve, his coaches thought he could achieve something, had to let go. And I think he reached to a breaking point where he realized that if he kept on going the way he was going, he probably would not last even 5 years. And even if he would have lasted, his quality of life would have been significantly low. That was the turning point, that was the bulb that went inside him, and then he has turned the page. Like I said, he's the poster boy for someone who was a drug addict, and now he is a multiple-time Ironman winner actually. He's considered to be one of the fittest athletes in the world, let alone Ironman. He's considered to be one of the most mentally strong endurance athletes in the world. Again, it's simple that he decided on something, but he decided to act on it immediately. It was not that, okay, I want to do it, now I'm going to take my time. No, the bulb went off, and from that very moment away, he decided to keep, whether it was that cigarette or the syringe, whatever it was, away, and he went on with his life. And he really has shown a lot of people in the world that you invest in yourself, invest in positivity, you can break any addiction.
You mentioned that you have done a lot to get to the point that you have, but somebody sitting out there may have this dream that I want to do something and I want to start tomorrow. Now this is it, I have had bad addictions so far, this is the day the chain breaks, and from tomorrow I'm dropping my cigarette, I'm dropping my glass, and I'm starting this. What can that person do? What can that person do to get out of that chair and sit in your chair in 10 years? What is the way to start tomorrow?
Yeah, so it starts right now. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. First things first, write down why you're doing this. Is it for yourself? Is it for your family? Whatever that is. And then write down 2 ways you can make that change. So it could be, like you said, you're going to keep your glass away, and you want to tell your friends you cannot hang out with them anymore. Whatever that is, you need to know your why. Why are you doing this? Second step is that if exercise is what you plan to start from bright and early in the morning, the next day put at least 8 or 10 alarm clocks and leave them on for the entire week, and keep your phone away from them. Keep your phone away from you at night. Why? Is because when you wake up in the morning and that phone keeps ringing one after the other, either your family or friends or your spouse is going to push you out of the door. So that first step is the hardest, but you make it easier on yourself. Number 2 is that don't be fixated on a distance. I want to run 5K the first day or 10K. You have to learn to enjoy the process. Remember, the longer you do this, the better results you will have. So start slow, start with a time goal. It could be 20 minutes or 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever that is. And then the third and most important thing is that don't choose something because someone else is doing it. It doesn't necessarily everyone has to go out for a run in the morning or go cycling. If playing a sport like tennis or badminton or going swimming or going to the gym is your thing, start with that. There's a great saying that Rome wasn't built in a day. So you have to take these small steps which are going to accumulate in big results for you.
And these are big steps, but you mentioned that you have to find your why. So some people say that if your why is strong enough, your how is going to be easy. So if you really want to do that, then you'll automatically start doing the things that are required. And when it actually begins to pain, like it does in an Ironman race, at kilometer 200, at hour 15, there are 20 kilometers left, you're running against the clock, and it is paining, you really have to dig deep down and find that why. Have you actually faced a moment like that?
Yeah, see, for me, whether it was my first or my 25th, the promise I make at the start line is I'm going to see the finish line. And for me, the timing is, secondary. It can take me, 11 hours, or it can take me 13 hours and 50 minutes, which has been my slowest time. And it came at the World Championships. So, just think of the mental pressure that you're the first person from India to qualify. This is my 19th Ironman. Kona was my 19th Ironman, and everything was going against me that day. I had a, really bad swim according to my standards. My bike was broken. I was having issues. I fell back on my hydration because I drank too much seawater. And where I usually start having energy on the run, right from the first kilometer till the 40th kilometer, I was walking. So it could have been very easy that day to just say, it's not my day, I'm going to sit to the side, which I did see a lot of my friends who were both amateurs and professional athletes do. But my why was very simple, that I had to finish the race. So, and that's why I say that, Ironman for me is very synonymous to life, because in life also you have these moments where you have to realize that, regardless of the outcome, you are going to keep going, you are going to keep pushing yourself.
Spoke a lot about what you have done to get your 99 trainees across an Ironman finish line. You also spoke about what you have done to get maybe hundreds of athletes across a marathon finish line, and several hundred more maybe across a 5K. That's everybody who has ever started, and that's even people who have done it in under a month now, right? But what do you think that everybody else, society at large, institutions like Rotary, who have a large following, they have a large base, and they have large connectivity in society, how can they help in getting society fitter, getting society more motivated and out there in the morning?
I think a lot of it is internal. You have a lot of chapters across all cities. I mean, we are in Pune right now, so we'll discuss Pune. You could just as easily host a meeting in the morning where the meeting happens after you do whatever it is, and you have to decide that some people may run and some people may walk. The advantage obviously of Rotary is that it's a family unit, right? So you're not just connecting to the both husband and wife, but you also have your young kids involved in the process right away. It's said that charity begins at home, and that's what it is. So if you show your kids and your other family members that, look, I'm doing this for myself, more than likely you will at least find one other person who will join you in your journey. Similar to Rotary, you also have the Rotary Club, which is your young generation, and I think those people really have to come forward and start organizing whatever, again, 5Ks, 10Ks, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a big event, right? We get caught up in that we want to do this for the entire Pune city. No, start small, organize it for your own unit, and you give people the challenge that they have to bring at least one friend for this event, and that's how I think it will spread like a wildfire.
Right. And you have a lot of trainees who maybe started as a, they wanted to get out of the couch and do a 5K, right? But once they do a 5K, they never stop with that. Some people do, but most people are, how do I get involved in the 10? After it's 10, now 21, 42. After 42, they want to do Comrades Ultra Marathons. So it never actually stops. This is just a way of getting people interested, and then whoever is actually interested may just continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is a very positive addiction that people take, right? Like I said before, that they start breaking these mental shackles they had created for themselves. There are a lot of people, always say to me, oh, I don't think I can run 1 kilometer. And just to give you an example, that we had the impact program, and I was just talking to one of my trainees. She lives in the US. She had a baby, and when we discussed our goals in October, just before impact started, we both sort of agreed that even if she got to running 10K non-stop, we had achieved our goal. And it was just phenomenal to see her involvement in her own training, and that she loved the journey so much that she was comfortably able to run 15 kilometers. And now just today she was talking to me that, okay, I'm at 15 now, how can I get to 21? It doesn't stop there. She's got her husband involved in running. So naturally now they are spending more quality time together, and they're spending more quality time with their kid who's going to be a year old in March.
And that's the example that he sees, because he sees his mother getting up at 4 a.m. to run.
Yeah, and he probably thinks that this can be a good excuse to get out of the house and spend some me time, and that's all about it, right? When you're out on the road, or you're on the treadmill, or in the gym, or on the cycle, or swimming, it's you and your thoughts. And the more positive thoughts you have, exercise adds stress, but it's considered to be a positive stress. Those endorphins, it's not that you exercise for 1 hour and then rest of the day you slack. That's why people say it's a runner's high. That high means that high is going to last you the entire day, and you'll be far more mentally relaxed, you'll be far more productive. So there's unseen side effects that people start experiencing themselves, and when they buy into this journey, it's very addictive for them.
Kaustubh, at the end of our discussion, do you have some one take-home message, a motto for anybody who's listening or watching?
Yeah, I think the biggest message I'll give you is invest in your health, and there's no right time. Don't wait for the right time. You can start your journey in investing in your health from the very get-go. Learn to be happy. I think last year has taught us a lot that people who are healthy were naturally happy. So if you invest in yourself, you will be happy, and people around you will be very happy as well.